right, we're back with the real drums today. Always exciting. We've got the Tama Star Classic Birch Bubingas today. Here's the concept for today. So I've been thinking about some ideas, and this is sort of like a double lesson. I'm going to take these off because with them on, I could barely hear myself. So this is kind of a double lesson. I'm going to talk about the concept of moving from triplets to 16th notes because of someone that I heard do it a long time ago. And really, I haven't heard too many people do it since, in this fashion anyway. And then I'm going to talk about, I'm going to title it Learning from the Greats, because there are things on YouTube called Study the Greats. So I'm going to say learning from the greats, and I'm going to try to take things from my time at Musicians Institute and some of the things that that really struck me as fairly easy, but really good throughout the 30 years since I've been there. And it sort of goes in line with this exercise that we're going to work on with going from the triplets to the 16th notes. So back about 1980, 1981, I was a big Journey fan back in the day, still am. But one of my favorite drummers of all time, still is Steve Smith, who's actually back with Journey. And this is no disrespect to anybody, but I was, a lot of people were into Rush, and so was I, and I love Neil Peart and everything. But when I heard Steve Smith, he was definitely a little more to my liking. They're both great, but there was a feel that I thought Steve had that really resonated with me. And when I heard, I think it was Captured, was the CD, and there was a lot of drum solos back then, and Neil Peart had one of my favorite drum solos from All the World's a Stage with Working Man, which is a great solo. But I heard Steve Smith do this solo in, I think it was La Do Da Do Day or something. They must have taken a long time to come up with that title. But anyway, La Do Da Do Day, I think is the name of it. And towards the end of it, he does this solo. And Steve Smith was kind of a Berkeley grad and a jazz guy, really. Played with Jean-Luc Ponty and big bands and stuff. And then he got the opportunity to play with Journey. I think he was playing with another rock band at the time. And somehow the gig got offered to him. And a lot of people know him as a rock drummer. But really, outside of Journey, for those 5 or 6 years that he played with Journey, 6 or 7, I don't know. Really, he's been a fusion jazz guy. So he did this solo, and he based it on triplets, basically, in his performance. And then what blew me away in 1980, first off, he had double bass, which was kind of cool to me, but a lot of guys play double bass. But he did this triplet thing, and then his fills, he started out with triplets, and then he went into 16th notes. And it had this sort of rush, this adrenaline or acceleration that I just thought was awesome. And I still, when I talk to students today, if they have a solo or something that they have to play, I talk to them about an easy way to have this cool solo is to do these triplets and then sort of accelerate into the 16th notes, right? Triplets are 3 notes for 1 beat at a time. 16th notes, grouping of 16ths, 4 notes in 1 beat at a time. So there's this progression, this natural acceleration of notes. So, but it led to a problem because the groove, I couldn't really play the groove the way it sounded with the way Steve played it. I didn't have a double bass pedal, and like many of my students know, so you have to improvise, right? You have to come up with a way. So I always kind of devised my own way to play double bass between the floor tom and the bass. So I'm going to give you some of these ideas. It's a cool rhythm. It's pretty easy. And all of my students can really work on this. Some of my students who have been with me for a while, Tom, Joe, Mike, Mike especially is working on a lot of triplets now. And some of my newer students who are working on different things and know about triplets, Justine, Katie, and people like that are just sort of starting to get into some more triplet things. We're going to talk about the sheet that's going to help you get into those things. And Some of you may have, I'm sure most of my students already have the sheet, but some of the newer ones might not be at that point yet. And that's what we're going to study from the greats. The teachers, I call them the greats because they were phenomenal teachers that I don't think most people have the opportunity to study with. The best you could do is study with people like me, which is not quite the same as the people that I studied with. But if I could transfer some of that knowledge that I got from them to you, then then I guess I'm doing my part, right? So I'm going to start off with this rhythm, this triplet rhythm that Steve Smith played in that song. I don't have my double bass pedal hooked up because I don't want to sort of start playing with the double bass just because I'll get excited and switch into that. So I don't have it hooked up. This is my foot playing the floor. So nothing there, just a hi-hat today, which is good. This is how it was back in 1980 in Chicago on Byron Street in a smelly old basement with my drum set up there with my album of Captured, and I'm listening to Steve Smith and the albums, the stereos all the way across the room, and I would listen to it, and then I'd have to get up, walk over, move the needle back, listen to it, try to play it, get up, walk back. It was a nightmare. Technology. So much better now. So anyway, this was the rhythm that Steve played basically that I had to figure out because I didn't have a double bass. So he's playing triplets on his bass drum. That's what he's playing. Okay, I can't go digga-da-da-ga-da because I only have one bass. So I've got to figure out a digga-da-da-ga-da with my right hand on the floor tom. So I come up with something like this. Right? Something like that. But then he does this, the rhythm is sort of on the hi-hat or the cymbal, and he's got the double bass going. So the best I can do to make that sound somewhat similar is to play triplets here and have the bass drum follow my hand. Now my hi-hat's doing nothing, so I may as well give that something to do and have a nice little light sound coming here. So I would go, this would be my double bass, right? But I don't have the bass drum, but I may as well give this something to do. So I'm playing triplets up here. I'm playing triplets down here. I put them together, and it's the closest I could get without a double bass for the rhythm part of the Steve Smith solo. Okay, so there's that. Then I could always go back to the floor tom. Tom, that real double bass kind of sound, either by playing with the bass drum and filling it in with my left hand, basically my foot's playing quarter note triplets, right? 1 to 2 2 to 3 to 2 4 to 1 to 2 2 to 3 to 4 to 1. Again, I could do something with my hi-hat, or I could play off the bass drum and do something where I'm actually playing the triplets with my hand and my foot. I could do something like that, right? I used to try something with my hi-hat. How did I do that? I don't remember how, but I used to, but I don't remember how. Yeah, because if you put your right hand with your hi-hat, then you can get that sound with the hi-hat going. Follow this. You get the triplet. Okay, so that was the beginning of a solo. He would mess around with the double bass. By the way, that's still a really cool rhythm. What's his name? The guy from Styx who grew up really idolizing Steve Smith too, Todd Suckerman, does this sort of solo in honor of Steve Smith, very similar to the one that I'm talking about. I just don't hear too many solos like it, but it's really a cool solo, so you should check it out with the triplets. But the concept is what we're trying to stick to. This video is going to be a little longer. Is the triplet to the 16th note. So, okay, so you've got somewhat of this down. You don't have a double bass. It's a lot of people still don't, or they don't want one. And they want to get that feel. So they're working on that and they get it down. Okay, so then what he does, obviously he's a drum solo, so he's going to have fills, right? So what he does is he's playing triplets. So he starts doing triplet fills. And then he goes back to the rhythm. That's all well and good and it sounds cool, but then it gets interesting, because then he's in the Ferrari and he puts his foot on the gas and zoom, he takes off. Why? Not because he's speeding up the song. I'm sure his meter is as good as anybody's, and maybe I mean it might have sped up a little from pure adrenaline, but it doesn't matter, because the concept is take those triplets and now move them to 16th notes, and you get this adrenaline, this feeling of acceleration. So he's playing. Play some triplets. Back to the triplets to give that deceleration. Acceleration. 16. That sound, which I did, is going from triplets to 16th notes. brings me, I don't know, 1980, 7 years later, I moved to California, right? And I'm in class, and I get this sheet. And this is basically the sheet. And basically what happens is we take one measure of time, and we fill that with these progression of more notes, right? 2 half notes, 3 notes and a half note triplet, 4 quarter notes, 6 quarter notes, or a quarter note triplet, 6 notes, 8th notes, 8 notes, regular 8th note triplets, 12 notes, 16 16th notes, right, to a measure, 16th note triplets, and then 32nd notes. So the progression would be you'd play the page from start to finish, or at least from the quarter notes, and you'd get this constant progression. But that was the same thing that Steve was doing, except he focused more on just these two, right? But he did do some 16th note triplets because he doubled his triplets sometimes. And he probably did the same with his 16th notes where he doubled some of those, making them 30 seconds. But in general, that's the concept, is take the triplets, move them into 16th notes. So that was one of the pages that, it's a simple page, and I probably got it the second week of school or something like that. But it's always sort of stuck with me. It's a page that I always give out to my students because you just don't hear people do it that much. You don't hear them. I don't think a lot of people have the understanding of that rhythmic structure of moving those rhythms. And, obviously guys like Vinny and those guys take it to, a whole nother level and everything with groupings of 7s and 9s and 11s. And I'm not talking about stuff that most people don't do. This is what everybody does, right? Everybody plays triplets and 16th notes. So, and at that tempo, it's pretty easy to work on them. Even if it was just on one drum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, So you could just kind of go back and forth. Well, then obviously when you get on the drums, you have to orchestrate, which I always say is, up to you. Everybody orchestrates things differently, but you have your hi-hat, you got the bell of the cymbal. This is one of the reasons I wanted to do this on the regular drums, because you don't get a bell of the cymbal on the stupid electric drums. You can do the fluff, if you want to do in something just to kind of mix it up. But the exercise for what you should do is you should take this great page, which, to be honest, anyone who's taken lesson here, I probably have, I don't know, over 100, probably 200 method books between here and at my house. And I don't think there's a page like that one anywhere, which doesn't make sense because it's such a great kind of foundational page of moving up this sort of rhythmic, these rhythms, and just adding a note or two to the one measure. So mess around with that, and also mess around with this rhythm because it's a great rhythm. You don't need a double bass. Now, if I could magically hook up my double bass, I could play the rhythm that Steve played, which is basically this rhythm. Except this is a bass drum, right? There's something kind of nice about the hi-hat in that spot. It gives it a brightness, I think. And the quarter note triplet you play with your right hand, I don't know, there's kind of it's a total different rhythm. And, listen to that solo. It's from the Captured album. I don't know, it's about 5 minutes in. It's like a 7-minute song with a 2-minute drum solo. And there might even be YouTube videos of him when he was he looked like me, same barber, except he had a little bit more hair in the back. It was the 80s, you grew it out even if you didn't have any. Okay, so, and there's a section where I could right now jump up and get on top of my seat and point out to the crowd, while they're going crazy. I could imagine there's, 40,000 people and I'm playing at the United Center. And I point out to the crowd and everyone's going crazy. And then I jump down, sit back on the drums and go back into my... something like that, and keep going, yay! And, a little stick clapping. And basically, that's all he's doing, right? Triplets, 16th notes. He goes back to the, matter of fact, he goes back to that rhythm for the ending. And he does a little like. That's how he ends it. Steve Perry comes out and says, "The one, the only, Steve Machine Gun Smith." I don't think Steve's around, so he's not going to walk out and say the one, the only, Steve Machine Gun Dale. Plus, that doesn't sound good. But it sounds much better with Steve Machine Gun Smith. So anyway, practice, practice, practice. Eighth note triplets. Count them however you want. I like 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, whatever works for you. I think 16th notes we could all agree on, 1 and a, 2 and a. And play around and move those rhythms back and forth. I'd say 1 bar. 1 bar of each. Practical. It reminds me of these cooking shows where you come on and they talk about, you get a little chicken, you get a little rice. It's sort of the basic thing. It's super easy. You work on it in 10 minutes. You got this lemon pepper chicken that everyone loves, and you cook it up for your significant other. This is sort of like that. Triplets and 16th notes. You work them out. Next thing you know, you got a cool solo that you could dazzle your friends with. So there you go. Don't forget about your bass drum. You can put that into your fills with your triplets, with your 16th notes. And that's all it is. It was a great sheet. I got it in about 1987. Steve Smith did the solo in around 1980-81. And I didn't get a double bass pedal until I was doing a Vital Information song, probably in 1992 in my band Double Forte. We did a Vital Information song, and he did this double bass thing, and I said, I got to buy the double bass pedal. So you can get by without it, unless you're playing Slipknot, Justine. Then you probably need a double bass pedal. But you could always fake it with some creative ways, and that's definitely... So there you go. Practice, practice, practice. Triplets, 16th notes. Thanks to, I don't know, Joe Picaro, Ralph Humphrey. I don't know who it was who gave us these sheets. Big Dave? Write in below who it was. I don't know who it was. But whatever it was, long-lasting effects. So practice, practice, practice. Study from the greats. Not me, but from them. I convey. And that's it. Have a good week. If you don't have the sheet, you should have it. So when you come to your lessons this week, make sure we get it, and we'll work on these progressions, although I think most people do. I'm supposed to say, like my page and hit the bell or something, or subscribe below and all of that stuff, but I don't know what any of that means. So really, I do it for my students at the school, and I hope other people, if they watch it, can get something out of it too. But I think I think I only have like 20 subscribers, so I'm not sweeping the nation. But I do have interesting videos. And they're not always interesting because of the drums. They're interesting because I talk about things like roast beef sandwiches and odd things that no one else talks about. But if you watch my other videos, you'll figure that out fast. Okay, I don't know where that sheet is, but I'll put it up. I'll take a picture. It'll be up on the page, and you could go from the triplets to the 16th notes and more. Okay, man, I miss playing the regular drums. I wish I could do it more, but due to time constraints, it's just not possible. So have a good week. Let's see if I can do this without standing up. 1, 2,